So I'm curious. Tell me a little bit about the equine partners that you have chosen to help you work with your human counterparts. As far as I'm sure there's been some very specific reasons why you work with the horses that you work with.
Yeah, well, like I said, the first thing that I check in with on any horses that I work with, because I've also traveled and given clinics where I did not bring my own horses, and I was doing demonstrations with horses that I didn't know, et cetera, et cetera. The first thing that I look for in a horse that I would be working with is that if depending on what we're trying to do, if I'm working with, I'll just talk about the equestrian, okay, for now, just to keep it simple, but is a horse that genuinely is not burdened with some kind of trauma and things like that, where it's not going to be safe. Because we've all been around horses who have been so mishandled and misunderstood that their basic reaction is, I'm going to keep you away from me at all costs. Because I don't actually think horses are that violent if they're not provoked. They're harmony-seeking creatures. And so a horse that's going out of its way to communicate in a violent way has just, he's at its wit's end, So that's not a horse I would, I don't need to prove anything by putting a horse like that and trying to, get that horse to pay attention to me. That wouldn't work. I'm looking for harmony. So two things. I have the horses at my ranch that I work with. I have my personal horses, and then I have some clients' horses that have lent themselves to the program because they have a really good way with people, or they have something specific. They're all different. They all have different sizes and backgrounds and training disciplines, and then they all have different personalities. And what's really fascinating is to see which horses the people gravitate towards. I usually don't say anything about the horses. The first couple things we do, I just let people pick the horses they're drawn to. And then it gets very interesting what the connections are and why they think once they have some information that happens. So there are horses that are really lend themselves to this work. I think the horses in general that there's some kind of connection with people. But if you were starving and having trouble paying your rent, even if you were really brilliant at something, you probably wouldn't be in a headspace to try to contribute that brilliance to the world. You'd be more worried about, how am I going to eat and pay my rent? So same thing with horses. A horse that's got in a good headspace, it's got a good setup that feels good about its life and it feels like it's got well-being, is going to lend itself to be willing to do all these things because its basic needs are being met. So, the horses that I work with are, sound and of good sound mind and body, and they, they lend themselves to that. So I don't know if I went in the right direction on what you wanted to know. I mean, I can tell you about some of the horses that I have, but when I go travel, I've got to make an assessment. Somebody brings a horse to me and says, "Oh, I want this to be the demo horse," and that's very nice. But I'm unwilling to put a horse in a situation where I don't think that it's prepared for it. It's just mentally not in a good space for it. I don't see the benefit of that because I'm not trying to prove to you that in 30 minutes I can stand on this horse. That's not my goal. I'm sure I could get there, but what I really want you to be impressed with is because this horse is going to be free and at liberty, I want you to see that without me knowing this horse, I can create a relationship that a horse that doesn't know me, doesn't have any reason to trust me, could decide to do all kinds of things alongside me at my request because for some reason I was able to make it feel safe enough and interested enough to want to do it.